Hey, it's Charles again with an entry for April 7th, 2014, and this is a topic that I've covered in a Facebook post before, not on one of these videos, but on a post on my profile. It's basically just a question about whether or not you think it's appropriate to take a first date. You take a girl or a man that you're going on the first date to a buffet, and first out, it's a question because a lot of people think that buffets are lower class than regular restaurants. And I'll admit that some of them are lower class. Like, first off, I guess I have to define like a buffet. And a buffet is obviously all you can eat, or something very similar to it. Maybe they do have like some kind of weird cap or something like that. But most buffets are traditional all you can eat places. And then, I mean, you have the expense of like a seafood buffet, which has an all you can eat, but it's very pricey. So it's not it's not always cheaper to go to a buffet. So when people do think buffet, they tend to think of like an old country or a hometown buffet where there's just a lot of random food. It's cheap, you can fill your face. Like they have, just fatty foods pretty much. They got the macaroni and cheese, the mashed potatoes, the low budget pizza. Just it's just like an it's like fatty, unhealthy American food, but all you want in like just in like cafeteria-esque seating. Everybody's bumping shoulders. You look around, nobody's dressed up. People are in shorts and flip-flops, tank tops. The norm. No dinner jackets or sports coats of any kind. It's a very casual place. The price doesn't reach more than, $13 per person. Usually kids are discounted or they eat for free. That is my definition of a lower class buffet. I mean, it's not like it's not a McDonald's, it's not a fast food, it's still a legitimate restaurant in my opinion. But it's not a ritzy place, obviously. I've been to a few buffets where they are still all you can eat, but they've been more expensive and they've been higher class. I've been to a sushi buffet, seafood buffet, and those do get pretty pricey. I think the sushi buffet that I went to was around like $35 per person, which isn't cheap for one meal. But I mean, sushi isn't a cheap food to make. It takes a lot of preparation. It takes, good quality materials. So I mean, it's a lot more expensive to make than macaroni and cheese, or like cheeseburgers or hot dogs or something like that. So when somebody goes in there and they eat the same quantity that they would, or the same volume that they would eat had they gone to like an old country or one of those other lower class buffets, then obviously it gets pricier because well, I guess it's hard to explain though because sushi is a very rich food. So could you actually in fact eat the same amount of sushi as you could like hot dogs or hamburgers or something like that? Because do you get sick of eating sushi and you tap out? Tap out is my my euphemism for being full or finishing eating. It's not like it's not a high quality phrase. Like it's not a pardon me, sir. It's a very lowbrow is the term I should say, I guess. Um, yeah. So do you do you tap out at a sushi buffet because you're full, or do you tap out because you've eaten too much sushi and it's too rich, and maybe you're not full, so maybe you wouldn't have eaten the same quantity and the same volume as you would have if you were at the old country. But that being said, a lot of people can eat a lot of sushi. My brother, for instance, and so yeah. So obviously, with people attack a seafood buffet the same way that they attack a regular buffet, they can do some damage in terms of in terms of like the wallet to the owners of the establishment. So that, I'm guessing, is why they can, charge a little bit more and get away with it. People, if you charge, $35 in Old Country, people are gonna be like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm not paying that much for macaroni and cheese and spaghetti and mashed potatoes and some meatloaf. But when you do it at a sushi or a seafood buffet, people understand it. People, yeah, the food is of better quality, so obviously they can charge more, and people still show up. They still stay in business. In fact, a lot of sushi buffets are doing very well, even though they're pretty pricey. People understand that the food is of like a higher quality. It takes a lot of preparation, better ingredients, so that they do pretty well, even though the price is obviously, like I've said, more expensive. So that being said, I think the question is hard to ask because of the difference in buffets. Obviously, when you take a first date to an Old Country versus when you take a first date to a sushi or seafood buffet, there's obviously a different, like a different experience. The sushi and the seafood buffet is obviously, it's more expensive, but with that comes, better, a richier place. Maybe they have better lighting, better seating in the seafood and the sushi buffet, whereas with the Old Country, kids are probably running around. Maybe they're even geared towards kids. I know that the Old Country in my area, I think there's one in Watertown. It has like a clown on Wednesdays or something like that. It has a cotton candy machine. It has, like a huge dessert section with a lot of different cakes. And they have specials on kids, like kids eat free one night a week. And just kids are always discounted and just stuff like that, because they know that, it's that kind of a place. Whereas nobody's on the sushi and seafood buffet, it's pretty much kids might be discounted and maybe under like 4 they eat for free, but that's because they're probably only gonna have like 2 pieces or something like that. But it's not a place geared towards kids. It's a different experience where if you go there versus if you go to the Old Country. And yeah, I mean, I know that there are different, like, there's probably like, I'm using sushi and seafood as the ideal for like the upper class buffet, and I'm using the Old Country as the ideal for the lower class buffet. I mean, I obviously know that there are other places other than Old Country that are very similar or that are at the same like level, but I just feel like those are the places that I've frequented the most. So those are the places in my mind, and the people that are probably, mostly watching this video are probably my friends and family. So they know these places are in the area, so they are more than likely to have been to them as well. I mean, it's kind of like if I were to talk about McDonald's, but instead of McDonald's, I would talk about like Jack in the Box or something, whereas Jack in the Box isn't in this area of the country. So it's kind of pointless for me to talk about that, because people are just like, hey, I wouldn't be reaching the majority of my audience. But anyways, so back to it. Obviously, there's a difference in the buffet experience. So, I guess in the first date, you want it to be as, you want the experience to be as high as possible. But I guess because first dates and first impressions are obviously about, you want to not really amaze, because just because you go to a sushi or seafood buffet, you're not amazing. You're not going to amaze anybody, but you want to kind of impress them a little bit. You want to show like, hey, I frequent establishments like this. I'm doing a little bit better. Whereas if you go to an Old Country, it's just like you're not really bringing the A game. You're not doing your best. It's just like I've referred to the Old Country and establishments like it as fill-up stations, because they're just places that you roll into when you're super hungry and you just want to eat and eat and eat and fill up your stomach and then go home and pass out. Whereas it's a place to go get your tank filled. By the way, that sounds like a horrible like sexual innuendo, but forget about it. Um, Whereas the sushi buffet, it's kind of like you go there to enjoy the food. You go there to try all the different variations of sushi. And yeah, I mean, so obviously you want to go to the place that will impress the date more. Um, yeah, so, but that it's also kind of what ties into it is whether or not the person that you're bringing to to the establishment knows you beforehand or not. Obviously, if they know you, before, if they've been a friend of yours and then you just decide to date, they know that, what you're like, and then you don't really have to try as hard to impress them as much because they obviously know, hopefully they know what type of person you are, they know your shortcomings, they know your strengths, so that they know that they're not fooled or persuaded at all by the bringing them to a better place versus bringing them to a lower class place. um, so yeah, so if you don't know them though, you want to make a good first impression. Whereas if you do know them already, then the first impression has already been made, and bringing them wherever doesn't really. I mean, obviously, you want to show them that when you're trying to date them, that you're gonna be a good person. So like, I'm not gonna just like, yo, let's go get Happy Meals at McDonald's. I don't want you costing me more than $4. So you want them to feel, special. You want them to feel, wanted, that you're willing to, shell out a little bit more and go the extra mile for them. That's even if even if you've known them beforehand. Once you stop being friends and you become something more, you want them to think, oh shit, get serious now. Like, oh shit, dude. This dude's serious about the progression of our relationship. He's serious about where we're going from now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, it also depends upon whether or not you know your partner beforehand or not. It depends upon the type of buffet. For me, though, I don't feel like wherever we went, it would really matter to me. Like if somebody brought me somewhere, you know, I think it's just because I'm very easy to please, especially when it comes to food. Like no matter what, if I were on a date, I don't think I would enjoy the food. You know, I mean, the date, obviously, I'm trying to get to know the person versus whether or not like I'm trying to enjoy the food. Obviously, if I'm eating garbage, like I won't be able, like I'll know that I'm eating garbage. Versus if I'm eating something really good, I'll know that I'm eating something really good. But I'm not. If somebody says, "Hey, let's go out," I'm not just like, "Hey, I hope we go to that good steak joint." It's just like, "All right, let's go." Like, I hope I have a good time, but I'm not really looking to get the greatest meal. I'm looking to get to know the person, and I'm looking to have see if I can have fun with them, versus getting a solid a meal that I really enjoy. I mean, yeah, like I said though, if it's straight garbage, then I'll be like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm okay with anything, because obviously I do have a gag reflex. If if the food tastes really, really bad, or if it's undercooked or something like that, then obviously I'm not going to enjoy the date, no matter who I'm with. So if the food like makes me throw up or anywhere close to that, then obviously I could be with the female version of Jesus Christ, and it would still be a horrible time. So, but yeah, I mean, that being said, if somebody were to take me to old country, I would be fine with it, because to me, in a sense, the food is food. If I'm on a date, I'm not heavily invested in the food. I'm more invested in the person. Plus, I think like I would. It's kind of fun to kind of like riff on the old country, and it's just like it's very casual, you know. Whereas if I went into the more expensive, the sushi buffet, I'd be more like, you know, maybe I'd have to dress up. I'd be sitting a little straighter and you know, trying to, you know, hold my shit together a little bit. Whereas if I went to the old country, I'd be like, yo, there's a fucking clown over there. Like, you're lucky I'm wearing pants, which means it's like, yo, I'm about to go shirtless the next time I hit the tables. So it's more low brow and low key, and that for me makes a more enjoyable date. I mean, I'm definitely not a person who, you know, I don't feel like I fit in with stuffy people, you know. I don't like to sit around for a while and have really long discussions about like the economy and politics and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that shit interests me, but like let's do it over a game of mini golf or something. Just like, it's kind of something that like I don't want to say like holds the attention, but just something that gets like the friendly mood going or something like that. You know, I don't feel like I'm stuffy in the slightest. You know, I try and be very easy to talk to. I try and be very open to people, and I feel like working in retail and being and growing up the way that I did has led me to be, you know, I'm very easygoing around people that don't have much that don't have much money. Like I'm used to going to a friend's house and they live in a small apartment, or they, you know, they live with their parents or something like that. I'm used to that. I'm not used to going to somebody's house and they have a humongous mansion with a butler. That would I wouldn't know how to act, you know. I just act the same way as if I went to a small apartment, you know, like so they'd probably offer me a drink and I'd go up to get like, hey, what do you got in the fridge? And then they'd be like, oh no, the butler get it. And I wouldn't know. I would feel bad for the butler because I don't like being served, you know, unless I'm at a restaurant. But I mean, even I like buffets because I can go get my own shit. I don't have to wait, you know, ask some waiter for or waitress for a refill on soda or something like that. I can just go up and get it myself. Um, yeah, I mean, so for me, I would enjoy going to either place, but like I enjoy the low key experiences more than high, the higher key or upper key, however you want to say it. But so the old country would be fun because obviously it's fun to kind of like rip into old country a little bit, crack some jokes, you know, shit like that. But all right, now that I've established that the difference in buffets and how I feel about that, I think some people will outright that I've talked to will outright say no to a buffet, like they don't think it's a good idea. And for me, I like the idea because I think it's a buffet is a lower key place than a traditional restaurant. And for some people, they think that's bad because they think, you know, they want the traditional dating scenario where there's a man, woman, or, you know, man, man, woman, woman, whoever it is. But they want the traditional scenario where there's two people across from each other and they only get up. They once they sit down, they very rarely get up, maybe once to the bathroom, but mostly not. And they just sit there and then they just talk and they face to face for the whole meal. You know, that's very rigid. Not flexible. You know, it's very typical. It feels old fashioned in my eyes. You know, I feel like the way to better get the way to get to know somebody better is, you know, if you spend time with them, you know, having fun. You know, I don't think some people will, oh my God, I had so much fun talking to this dude. But it's like, yeah, but would you have had more fun if you were just like, you know, hanging out with them, kind of, you know, just enjoying life a little bit versus being in a very rigid environment? Um, that is the way that I feel. I enjoy dating. You know, if I go out with somebody, I feel like that is where I can more be myself than, you know, if it's a very rigid environment. So yeah, I mean, I like buffets because also buffets give you something to talk about. You know, you can talk about the food. You know, you can, hey, what'd you get? Oh, you know, I got this. Oh, I like those. You know, that's good. You can talk about the food at a restaurant, but there's a lot more, you know, there's a lot more tasting, there's a lot more variety at a buffet. And, you know, obviously, if you get something and it turns out you don't like it, you can go get something else. It's not just like now where you have to push it down and you don't enjoy, you know, you don't enjoy the food because it's you're forcing something down that you don't actually want to eat. You know, so maybe if they screwed up on one meal, you don't have to eat it because you can go up and get something else at the tables. You know, like let's say for whatever reason you were at Old Country and Old Country made a shitty pan of chicken. Instead of that being like your only dish, you could go up and get, hey, I don't want this chicken, it's undercooked. I'm gonna go up, you know, and get some spaghetti now. So yeah, it's the food obviously is a lot more flexible, and that is obviously another reason that I enjoy the buffet. But basically, I mean, what it comes down to is that I enjoy the atmosphere. It's a lot more flexible. It's a lot more comedic. It's a lot more humorous, and I enjoy getting to know somebody. You know, when they can laugh more and when they appear to be more in their element. I mean, the people that I've dated before are not people who in fancy dresses and fancy coats and things like that. They're more the people that feel more comfortable at a cheaper buffet or something like that. That's not to say that they're low class. It's just that they're more they fit in better with the average person, with the common man. Just like the way that I feel that I do. So maybe it's just a difference of personality, I guess, whether or not you feel like first date at a buffet is okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it's more about meeting the person and them being feeling open and feeling not vulnerable. Whereas I feel like the upper class buffets are more like a job interview, where you got to put your best foot forward, you got to make a good first impression, you got to think more about what you say. Whereas, just having fun at a old country, it's just like, you can pretty much just fucking joke around and have a good time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if anybody sees this, in my opinion, the buffet first date, okay. No matter which buffet you take them to, obviously don't go like as low as you can go. Like I I remember I went to a up in Maine. There was a KFC buffet that my brother really liked, and I think a KFC buffet is a little too low, a little too low. But even like an old country, it's okay in my book. But I mean, old country's kind of skirting the line. I'll admit, it's kind of skirting the line because you got kids running around. You got the clown. You could probably barely hear each other. So old country's kind of getting a little low. So maybe just up it a little bit more. You know. But I mean, ideal situation, obviously, because you want to put your best foot forward, is it's probably the sushi buffet is obviously not the ritziest buffet in the world. And you'll find one that's kind of like it's a good medium between the super Ritz and the old country, and I think that's the way to go. You want a little bit of the best of both worlds in that situation, and I think that's the ticket, the way to go. And obviously, I think to deny a date based upon the choice of venue, a first date, I think is stupid. You don't even know the person. Maybe they're not good at picking places. Maybe they picked it for a specific reason. Maybe friends of theirs works there and they want to show you off or something, or they want you to meet them. So I would never deny a date based upon a venue, unless it was like, yo, like join me at this clan meeting. Obviously, then I just like, nah, dude, we're not good. And no, we're not going. I'm not going to a clan meeting or something like that. something obviously stupid like that. But I mean, other than that, it's about the person and spending time with them versus the venue. And I think having something else to focus on makes people more comfortable, and shit like that. I mean, if I wanted to, I could just I could bring somebody into a room and just sit across from them and just grill them for 2 hours and call that a first date. Or I could go mini golfing with them or go see some movie with them. And obviously, I'd prefer the movie because it would be a more enjoyable experience and it would be more laid back. Anyways, thanks for listening. If you want to talk to me, you know how to get in touch. Thank you.